Hello all and welcome, and I'm the MGTOW philosopher. And in this video, I would like to discuss why people are still getting married. So why are people still getting married? After all, 50% of all marriages do end in divorce. And how many things do you know which fail 50% of the time, but people still continue to do them? How many things do you buy knowing that it has a 50-50 chance of blowing up if you plug it in? For example, let's say you buy toothpaste, and there's a 50-50 chance it will turn your teeth black. How likely would you be to buy that toothpaste? Or, if you wanted to go skydiving, but there was a 50-50 chance your chute just wasn't gonna open. How likely would you be to go skydiving after that? Or, you want to get LASIK eye surgery, but there's a 50-50 chance you will go blind during the process. How likely would you be to get that LASIK eye surgery? Probably not very likely. And then you have marriage, where 50% or more of the time it fails. Where even if you are one of the 50% who doesn't get divorced, you know that many of those men are staying married simply because they don't want to lose all their shit. So you know that all of the 50% that stay married are not happy. Name one thing that consistently fails as much as marriage. Can anybody out there name one thing that fails as much? Can you? I doubt you can. At least not easily. And yet people still do it. They still do it, thinking that they'll beat the odds and be the one that's happily married. Yes, I'm going to be the happy married person who lives a lifetime full of romantic love. Yeah, right. Now, that being the case, that it ends as much as it lasts, and that even when it does last, you know a lot of those people ain't happy. Why are people still doing it? Now, for men, there's clearly some cognitive dissonance going on here, because nowhere else in our lives would we men do anything that had such a proven bad track record, that had such a proven track record of failure as marriage does. I mean, for example, half the people who invest in this area lose all their money? Sign me up to do it. I mean, who would invest in something where half the people that do invest lose all their money, and then the other half get sporadic returns, and then a few got good returns? Who's going to invest in that? No. Men don't do that anywhere else in their lives except marriage. So I think cognitive dissonance has a lot to do with it. Now, this is, of course, a conscious choice. The choice to ignore all the bad data and go ahead anyway. And that's where man's ability to use logic and reason comes in. You see, he uses his ability to rationalize things, to explain away all the data that tells him marriage is a bad thing for him by convincing himself that it doesn't actually apply to him. Just like he would have had to cognitively distance himself from all the logical and reasonable arguments telling him not to attack that giant woolly mammoth with his spear. You know, his brain, it knew it was a bad idea, but his family had to eat. So he had to choose to cognitively distance himself from his logic and his reason and just do what he knew was probably a bad thing for him. Because his family had to eat. There was that positive reward, that carrot swinging in the distance that he was just chasing after. The promise of happiness and bounty for him and his family. So a lot of what you see is the Marxists who have taken over society, using men's own strengths against them. Oh yeah, half of other people's marriages end in divorce, but not mine. You see, she's special, and I'm special, and she's the one, and our love is real. So we're the ones that are going to make it work. Nobody else made it work, but we're the ones that'll make it work, because we're special. You see, this is the pit of conceit that men fall into. They convince themselves that it won't happen to them because they know enough to avoid the pitfalls that others have foolishly fallen into. You see, they have all these bad examples to learn from, the bad history that others have provided them with to learn from, and they are, of course, smarter than all these other people were. Those foolish people that ended up getting divorced. No, that won't be me. They did this, and they did that, and they did this wrong, but not me. I'll do this and that and this right. It's the typical, it won't happen to me scenario. And men also have an uncanny ability to ignore reality by compartmentalizing stuff. I mean, we're really good at that. We can meet a woman, fall head over heels in love, lust, and objective reality and thinking just take a back seat to our feelings. You know, that shit can really overcome a man's logic and reason and make him do stupid things, like getting married. And that is, of course, the problem with subjectivism. Your feelings become reality. Your reality, of course. But for you, they are very real. And those feelings and that reality, your reality, supersede all other realities, including the one that tells you that half of all marriages end in divorce. It is you distancing yourself from your cognition so as to feed your family, so as to get that positive outcome. Now, add hormones to the equation, hormones that can also have the effect of shutting down rational thought and making reason subordinate to emotion, and you won't even seriously consider any of the negative possible outcomes. Because, they're not even an issue you need to consider. Oh, no. Not a problem for me. Hence why so few men end up getting prenups. It just never occurs to them. It doesn't apply to me. That applies to everybody else. But I don't need it. I don't have the same issues as these other fools did. No, that's not me. That's them. Then 10 years later, there you are being sued for alimony and child support and wondering what the fuck happened. There's also a powerful social element to it. If your parents were married and stayed together and raised you, they'll oftentimes tell you that you should get married too. And as a man, of course, it's your job to sacrifice your happiness for a family. And that having a family is the quote-unquote ultimate goal of a man. His right of manhood, as it were. The ultimate proof that he is a man. I mean, men are taught time and time again that taking on more and more responsibility is what makes them men. Yeah, it's horseshit, of course, but that's what they're taught. Taught by their parents, if they had both parents raising them together, of course, and taught to them by the media and crap TV shows and crap books. And it's heavily incentivized by the government. A government that wants men married so that they can have kids. And then the wife can divorce him and take half his stuff. And it is a natural part of a man's makeup to want to take care of a woman and to protect those weaker than himself. So this desire for marriage, coupled with all of the social factors involved and the social pressures, and man's ability to compartmentalize and perform cognitive dissonance so as to maybe, just maybe, get what will make him blissfully happen. You see, all these things, they combine together to make marriage still seem like an attractive concept to a man. Hence, after thinking about it, one can see how men, despite all the evidence to the contrary, can still turn off their brains, ignore all the evidence, and get married anyway. Essentially, what they're doing is jumping out of that plane and believing that, of course, their chute will open. Though that belief has zero to do with the objective reality of whether or not there's even a ripcord for him to pull. And that speaks to how men are natural risk takers and how they've learned to take and often embrace risk, taking it as part of being a man. After all, risks bring rewards. Calculated risks, that is. But again, the institution that is marriage has been sold and continues to be sold to men in such a way that it plays to everything that makes him a man. Oh, he has greater cognitive skills. Let's play to those and he will use cognitive dissonance. He's a natural risk taker. Let us play up the rewards and even lie if necessary, so that he will throw caution to the wind in hopes of a huge payoff. He has a lot of biological imperatives that make him want to protect and take care of women. Let's portray marriage as the ultimate form of this. Marriage, as it is now sold to men, is nothing more than indoctrination, which is in a very calculatingly designed way meant to manipulate men into wanting marriage, while at the same time getting them to ignore reality completely. That is something leftists are very good at anyway. And most people of marrying age right now, in today's day and age, have already been indoctrinated within the indoctrination centers we call public schools. So manipulating them is not really very hard. Also, let us not forget that most men at some point want to have kids, and marriage is portrayed as the best way to have them and raise them. With all of these contrived tools being used against him, is it any wonder that men still walk around thinking marriage is a good thing, and that some of these very same men still try to bash and attack us MGTOW guys for being against it? Not really. So it's easy to understand why men do it. What with all these tools, with all these weapons, this arsenal arrayed against them. But now let me ask you this. Why do women do it? After all, half of all marriages fail for women too. And with most women being feminists in belief, if not in name, you still see more and more of them than ever wanting to get married. But why? It fails half the time. Why would they want to do it? Well, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. They continue to want to get married for the sake of money, honey. They want that cheddar, baby. They want the man's resources, and marriage is the best way to get those resources. And because of no-fault divorce, they can divorce the man for no actual reason and be given half his stuff. Now that, of course, is a shitty business deal for a man. And make no mistake, marriage is a business deal. You're signing a contract to share everything 50-50. And so while it's a bad business deal for a man, it's a really good one for a woman. She can essentially marry you, do nothing throughout the whole marriage, and get half your stuff. And even half your business if she simply claims she somehow helped you in some amorphous way in regards to your business. So that's why women get married. Not because of love, because love is horseshit. At least romantic love is. No, it's love of cash, of stability, and security that women tend to conflate with romantic love, but is really just a woman feeling good because she knows she has found a dude who can pay the light bill on time and provide her with nice shit to further aggrandize her ego. That is what love is to a woman. And for many women, divorce is the incentive to get married. That's right. Being married is not the incentive, divorce is. As once she has put in her time, she can retire from his demanding ass by filing for divorce, and she will then get lifelong alimony and child support if she has underage kids, and possibly a piece of his retirement too, and his business if he owns one. Oh, and she will likely get the house too, if they own one, that is. That's not a bad payoff for just signing a piece of paper and living somewhere with a guy for a decade or so. And best of all, there's no risk to her. No risk at all. Now tell me honestly, who would turn down that deal? So that's why women get married. The promise of a big payoff in the future. Are there exceptions to the rule? Sure there are. I mean, hell, there's unicorns out there. Maybe. And I'm sure if you go searching and you spend your whole lifetime looking, that you might find some white horse with a big, long, shiny white horn on its head. But you'll likely be 150 by the time that happens, and your life will be over. But hey, at least you proved that there was an exception to the rule, a needle in the proverbial haystack of life, as it were. Men, you need to wake up and realize that all the things you've been led to believe about marriage are not true and are nothing more than clever propaganda and indoctrination techniques, including shaming tactics designed to do nothing more than make you sign up for the program, thereby allowing the woman to get her hooks into you, get you into a relationship that cannot possibly succeed, also that later on you'll be forced to turn over many more of your resources to her than if you just banged her and then been forced to simply pay child support and nothing else. Marriage has become nothing more than another way to break men down, make them more productive as they need to pay all this money to support what are essentially two households now, while at the same time redistributing most of a man's wealth to a woman, who is, by the way, irresponsible with money, as most purchases are made by women, and she'll just turn around and spend most of that money. That's why cultural Marxists and the cultural Marxist machine that has risen up in America doesn't come out as being 100% against marriage, and instead pushes for it, because in the end, it's financially good for them. They know that their teachings, which fill the heads of most women in the West, will make that marriage unworkable, and that most marriages will end in divorce. They're well aware of this. And given the fact that more than 70% of divorces are enacted by women in the first place, it would seem that their indoctrination is working very well. So their whole plan is very simple, and it's working quite well. Get people married, get them divorced. And once they split up, they end up living separately, thus driving their individual costs way up and draining everyone involved of their cash, while at the same time putting whatever children which were made by these two people into the hands of the state for longer periods of time and for further indoctrination without a strong family unit existing to counter that indoctrination, and thereby further enriching the global elites who want the communist utopia, which will of course come at the expense of all, even women, who think they're getting a good deal, but are really not even close. This is all calculated, folks. It's no mistake that any of this is happening. These things are the desired end result of social engineering on a massive scale. And women's liberation is just part of it. It's one of the many tools of the left, one of the many tools of the global elite, and it is nothing more than slavery. And feminism is the ideology that keeps women and many men chained to it. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.